Dutch. Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Actually, thank you for having me.
Well, even better, even more of a pleasure. I mean, I love this space, and a lot of people don't get to see it. So
Yeah.
You got a little bit of an inside track.
This is beautiful, and this is very exclusive. Where are we right now?
We're in the members bar, which is the one part of Bike Shed Moto Co that the general public don't normally get to see unless we're giving a tour, and it is members only, and it's something we don't have in our London club. So although we have,
you guys don't have it in the London.
No, we have. We have
no idea.
Over 600 members in London, but they join for all the other reasons. They join for the community, the rides, the track days, the adventures, the trips, the camaraderie.
Well, let's slow it down. I'm very excited about this, but let's slow it down real quick. So right now we're in Arts District, Los Angeles, California, at a new location. This has been open now 3 months, correct?
Yep, that's right.
This is Bike Shed Motor Company.
Yep.
Or Motor Club.
Moto Co.
Moto Co.
Yep.
And you guys originated in London about 13 years ago.
Yeah, just about. I suppose it is. Yeah, 2011 we started properly as a business.
Now as what is the origins? How did you guys come along?
Well, it was a hobby. It was a blog. So I guess it was about 2009, 2010, maybe. I was riding motorcycles, and Vicky and I both worked in media and broadcasting and TV.
And Vicky's your beautiful wife.
Yeah, she's my wife.
Partner, business partner.
Yeah, so we both worked in media together, actually, and we got married. And we both had great jobs, 4-day week for me. So I was free on a Friday. And for my birthday, we had recently seen Tron with a Ducati Sport Classic 1000 limited edition black and gold motorcycle in the opening scene. And I was like, what is that motorcycle? And when Pierre Terblanche bought that bike out for Ducati, nobody wanted it, nobody liked it. And suddenly it became a legend. Vicky bought me one for my birthday. And I was getting into sports bikes and riding faster and faster, having grown up through off-road and supermoto and those giant supermotos that everybody was building in the early 2000s. And I got into the Sport Classic and started customizing it. But it was at that time when everybody was personalizing and customizing motorcycles. And it was very different from what had gone before. And it was very different from the way motorcycle marketing was being run. Trade shows, magazines were all based around sport or commuting. And it was a trade environment that wasn't interesting to most people I knew. Yeah. And they loved retro style but modern performance, and this Ducati summed that up with upside down forks and Brembo brakes, and yet it was an air-cooled engine. And so I started customizing the bike, and Vicky said, why don't you blog about that? Because I was a creative, so give yourself an outlet. So I created a blog called Full Tilt and started writing about it. But at the same time, I had friends that were doing similar things. A couple of friends of mine, Tim and Kev, had a company called Spirit of the 70s, and they were customizing motorcycles, CB750s, early Kawasaki's, making them kind of modern retro. There was a guy called Adam who had Untitled Motorcycles, was doing the same thing with BMW, kind of the old kind of boxer twin airhead motorcycles, doing what everybody's been doing for the past 12 years or so. And they had blogs, and I was like, well, why don't we combine? Why don't we put it all together? And
so simple, but so creative and awesome, It
was kind of like,
but nobody was doing it.
We should share this. I mean, the only person that was doing something was Chris Hunter with Bike Exif, and it was email then. This was before Facebook, really. Yeah. So it was all on email, and you get an email in your inbox every week, I think, or was it every day? But it was just pictures, and this bike has flat side carbs or whatever, and it's like, okay, fine. But I wanted to tell our story. And then I ended up doing all the work. But I said, well, we need to call it something. We called it Bike Shed Motorcycle Club because we thought, well, it's a club. It's like a club. When you find someone who rides, it's like being in some kind of club. And bike sheds in England, it's really colloquial. It's the big wooden hut in your back garden where you make things and hide things and work on motorcycles that you'll never finish or whatever. So I thought that was kind of an ironic name. And I also kind of like BSMC. It was a bit like BRMC, Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. And I kind of thought this is is the stupid English version of that. Yeah. And so I put together this kind of website blog that was Bike Shed. I kind of did everything. The guys kind of got a little bit involved. I was re-editing their stories. But, we were a happy bunch of friends doing that. But really, whenever we got together once a week in our local pub, we really sort of talked about everything. Apart from motorcycles, we talked about kind of fashion and cameras and lighting and stuff we liked. And we might talk about watches, or we might talk about camera lenses, or whatever, adventures, travel. And I realized it was quite a unique crowd of people that are into more than just the machines. And they love the aesthetics. They love building. They love a whole bunch of stuff. And I realized there was a community around it. And we said, well, let's do a show. And we were drinking beers. We were having one of those beer conversations. And it was we were coming up to the November UK Bike Show, which is a big trade fair. And it's put on by the Motorcycle Industry Association, the MCIA. And all the brands have a footprint based on the size of their share of market, I think. And they get given this spot. And it's boring. The only women that you see in there are paid to be there, or reluctantly dragged along by their other half. There weren't a lot of women in motorcycling that found that interesting. And you're either seeing bikes that are available next year to buy that I wasn't interested in, because no one was making anything I wanted to buy.
Yeah,
I'd rather have an older bike and work on it, or the Ducati Sport Classic.
What you guys were doing, yeah.
Yeah, they'd stopped making that bike. They made it for 3 years and then they stopped because nobody bought one. And so we were like, well, what would happen if we did a show? And straight away we were talking about really good food and a place to sit and hang out, and making it friendly for, our other halves who don't ride, or friends, with really good eye candy and photography and art on the walls based around bike culture, maybe live music. We talked about pop-up barbershops, pop-up tattoo shops, comfy Chesterfield sofas. It should look like somebody's big converted garage. And so the following week, we met up for beers again, and I said, I booked a place. So I booked a venue.
How many people are you at this point?
About 12.
12.
Just me and a bunch of guys. I mean, and mostly in media and TV. I think Vicky was probably the only woman at the time. Maybe a few kind of wives and girlfriends got dragged in, but it was a good bunch of people, a good bunch of creative people, and Vicky was very keen on the hospitality side of it and making it a place where she would go, because she doesn't like going. She rides motorcycles. You can't drag her to a trade fair. She's not interested.
Yeah.
Or eating bad food and drinking shit coffee. She's not interested in that. Or hanging around kicking
what most people do in general, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's kind of like wandering around kind of, commenting on tires and suspension. That's not really her thing. So she wanted to make it a show that she would enjoy as well. So a few months later, we put on our first show, and that kick-started Bike Shed as a business. So we hired a couple of railway archers in Shoreditch, around the corner from our destination now, at a place called Shoreditch Studios. By that time, I'd migrated the website onto Facebook, and other people were writing to me saying, would you share my bike? And a lot of them were the Bike Exif rejects, because they didn't have good enough photos.
Yeah.
And Chris didn't really have time to edit people's photos or turn their stories around. And so I kind of got all the underdog stuff. So someone to build a beautiful bike, send me some crap photos.
I mean, that's always one of the greatest stories, is getting the underdogs.
Yeah, so
turning it into...
It was kind of fun, because I was giving them tutorials on how to take better photos, and then I'd edit them, and I'd kind of clone out all the crap in the background. And
right.
So, and I kind of won a lot of friends by doing that, all across Europe and kind of beyond as well. So when we did that first show, I emailed all those people that I was sharing their stuff or writing their stories for them. I think by then Facebook had about 20,000 followers as well, so it was growing. And
yeah, because 2007 to 2010, it was still private. You had to go to the university and do the email thing. It wasn't public.
Yeah, it had opened up, and it became about those communities, and everyone was sharing. It was a time for sharing. And the fact that you could link back to other people's sites. But all those people said yes, they'd come to this show. So I think we had 55 motorcycles, but from all over Europe. We had some exhibitors from Thailand as well. These guys called Elder Helmets came from Thailand with their crash helmets. And 3,000 people turned up to this show. And we had the pop-up barbershop.
Your first show.
Yeah, first show. Pop-up barbershop, pop-up tattoo, art on the walls by Conrad Leach, who we have his art here right now. And photography by great photographers. I mean, the whole thing was very similar to the club experience that we put on now, because it was small scale. It was 2 railway arches. And we hired, hired sofas, Chesterfield sofas. And we had a bar, and we had retail, but it was all curated. It wasn't stuff on sale. I was like, well, we want the new stuff from next year, not the sale stuff from last year that you're all trying to get rid of. And we created this amazing show. And that kickstarted it.
How much did it? Of course, the economy and everything's changed in today's market. As instead of before. But how much do you think you spent on this venture of just throwing an event with your friends?
That first show cost us £12,000, about $16,000.
A lot of money.
Yeah, we just all chipped in.
Yeah.
And
but still, it's not like a $2,000. Let's get a keg and
it was definitely more than that. We made an effort. We wanted something great.
Yeah.
And also at that time, it was a hobby, and I was earning good money in advertising, and most of my friends were making good money. So for us, actually, we could afford for everyone to throw in $2 or $3 grand and see what happened.
Beautiful.
And that first show was free. Actually, we didn't charge tickets.
Beautiful.
And we got an amazing response in the UK motorcycle press. A lot of brands came and said, "Where did you find all these women and young people?" Which I thought was a funny question. Because it just, if you speak their language, they might turn up.
Yeah.
Was my answer. And make it welcoming. Like if you stuff, models with too much makeup in Lycra, and that's your representation of women in a motorcycle event, then real women riders won't go.
Yeah.
It's derogatory. It's not 1972.
It's interesting that you say 1972 because it's that's what the marketing was before. It was like, oh, people expect this and like this, so let's advertise to that. But they weren't really communicating with their target market.
No, I think it's we all love a super hot girl, right? I'm a guy, but I don't need one in my face trying to get data capture from me or marketing material or telling me about the new Panigale when they've just been given something to read. Right. That's awkward. I don't want that. And I want to be in a place that represents the community. It should have women in it because women exist in the community.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of struck a chord with a whole crowd of people that love motorcycles but didn't like the way motorcycle culture was at that time. And they didn't go to they didn't read magazines, never mind not going to trade fairs.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't go to a dealer either. They're buying secondhand bikes and modifying them and customizing them. So it was a different crowd. And the manufacturers were interested. And the press said we'd put on, I think the headline was something like a bunch of amateurs put on the best motorcycle show the UK has seen. Something like that. And I was like, wow.
Oh.
So we thought, well, we better do another one because that same year, from 2012 into 2013, and 2012 was when we planned the show, and May 2013 was when we did it, because we also wanted a season opener. I didn't really get why all the bike shows were at the end of the season. I was like, well, I want a show at the beginning of the season, not the end. But we kind of realized that we'd kind of struck a chord and that we needed to continue this, because at that time, there was a kind of a zeitgeist. There were, Chris Hunter was out there with Bike Exif. Deus was kind of out there really championing bike culture. I think motorcycle riders pounced on Deus. They also did the surfing and all the other stuff, but I think bike culture really gave them a big kind of lift up. Yeah. Also, I think there was the one show when it was still tied with the handbill. I think when Alan and Tor were working together, I think they did a show together.
And these were shows that were going on before.
Yeah, and that was in the US. There was a show in the UK organized by Dave Mucci, the Moto Mucci guy. I think he organized it. I might be remembering all of this wrong. I can't remember what that show was called, but all these motorcycles were on kind of, they were on pallets and there was kind of cool stuff going on. You could see there was a zeitgeist. It was like the owners of motorcycles, the creative crowd in particular, were taking over bike culture, and they go, no, this is how you do it. This is what motorcycles should look like. And we were almost telling the manufacturers, this is what we want. We were building stuff that we liked, and they weren't doing it. So I kind of realized that was pretty cool. And so we decided to do another show really quickly. So that same year, we did another show in October 2013 as kind of the season closer, almost like this is what happened through the summer. And then we had 77 bikes, and I think...
like the recap.
It was the recap, yeah. So it was the season opener, season closer. And we did think about that was the formula going forwards. And we did this second show. We hired 2 more railway arches. So we had 4 or 3.5 kind of arches in Shoreditch. And it was even bigger. I can't remember how many people turned up. 5,000 people? Sounds right. I think 5,000 people turned up.
Wow.
And
because usually you get a good hit the first one, and the second one's like a little dip. And
and we charged £5 for a ticket. And we had sponsorship. I think Moto Guzzi and Triumph sponsored the show.
Very nice.
which was great. Very happy with that. And we made our money back and the money that we'd spent on the first show. So straight away we were suddenly
Kudos.
break even business. You know, I didn't really think of it as a business. I thought of it as a hobby. And I thought, wow, there are people here that want to sponsor this. The exhibitors who are trading want to trade and come in and sell stuff. And we decided to turn it into a proper thing. We realized it was actually a business. And so we started a company and we planned our third show. And we moved hugely, kind of expanded into Tobacco Dock, which is the venue that we do our show at now in London, which is a big,
I heard,
stunning venue.
and I heard about the show. I heard you guys bring in about 25,000 people.
Almost.
Almost.
19,000 people, yeah.
Well,
Almost 20.
Well, this is America. We exaggerate.
25,000
50 million
Exactly.
trillion people.
All those people.
But I heard about the show. But my understanding, my assumption was you guys started the club first and then the events. But you guys started off events.
Yeah. I mean, the event was kind of like an annual celebration of our culture.
Yeah.
People like us, people who are going to be listening to this podcast, people who ride bikes, build bikes, fettle with bikes, who want stuff personalized, they want stuff to be
Paint bikes
interesting, and you know, it's that crowd wasn't being represented, and so this was our annual party. It was our celebration of what we do, whether it's photography or art or bike building, and all the other things that kind of circulate around that kind of culture. And I think the DGR as well kind of inspired the barbershop side of it, because the DGR also started in 2012. We did the first one when Mark Howard did the first one in Sydney. We did it in parallel in London. So me and Mark were like, well, I said to Mark, if you do one in Sydney, I'll do one in London. So all of that was tied together. The gentleman rider, the barbershop haircut, but maybe with rolled up sleeves and tattoos on show. All of that stuff just...
Cigarette pack.
It was all kind of happening. Yeah, it was all just happening all at once. So I think we were part of that zeitgeist, but we wanted to push it and drive it and not just be riding the wave. We wanted to amplify it and make it more reachable, more accessible, because motorcycling's always been very exclusive, and we wanted to make it inclusive and add more people.
Can you paint me a picture, like, if I go back 12 to 15 years ago in the United States, there wasn't many, like especially for Harley Davidsons and stuff, there wasn't many customization companies. There was a handful, Custom Chromes, Clockworks. There was a handful of companies. Now there's unlimited amount of customizations, and California's always had a style. I just had somebody on the podcast not too long ago. They're from Texas, and now they started getting really crazy on their builds, and they said California had an influence. Can you paint me a picture of what the motorcycle community looked like 15 years ago? Customization, was it big? Did it people, like back in the days, kind of people saw Harley riders are like, oh, trouble. How was it looked upon in general?
In the UK?
In the UK.
I mean, in the UK, custom culture didn't really exist beyond the Harley kind of ground up build kind of culture. People associated custom bikes with Harley Davidsons and that very old school kind of 70s, 80s, skulls and flames and chrome and shiny paint jobs. And it wasn't something most people were doing, but there was a huge culture for modification. And there were, obviously upgrading suspension and brakes and exhaust pipes and kind of as you guys say, tailpipes, mufflers, end cans, making a motorcycle work better, because manufacturers build motorcycles to a price.
Right.
And also they don't necessarily have good taste. They're all kind of designed by a committee and by the marketing department. They don't necessarily know what they're doing.
Almost by people that don't ride. Almost.
Yeah, almost. In the past, not so much now. And bikes were getting uglier. So we had to fix that. So there was a whole community of people, and it would pick on certain motorcycles. And, people were kind of moving the whole of the Street Fighter thing was quite big, taking sports bikes and taking the fairing off. And also there were certain motorcycles like the Honda Hornet when it first came out, the 600. There was a super simple motorcycle, and you just buy a black one and you change the pipes and you put flat bars on it, and you put mini indicators on it, turn signals, as you guys say.
Indicators,
Yeah, so small turn signals, small number plate, minimize everything, put as much in a box.
Strip.
Yeah, it's all about what you can take off.
Yeah.
Fill a box, which was kind of the opposite of how we viewed the custom scene. The custom scene was add things to your bike. Yeah. We were like, take things off your bike. Make it way less and go faster. But there was an aesthetic side to that. We weren't going racing. we wanted our bikes to sound good and look good and maybe handle better and brake better. But there was a culture around customizing bikes, but I wouldn't call it custom culture. But what happened, I think, was people started adding those parts and those upgrades to older bikes. So you could put upside down forks and Brembos on an old 70s CB750. And that whole Cafe Racer thing had been around for a while. A lot of it was riffing off the Cafe Racer vibe of, before clip-ons, people used to flip their handlebars and turn them upside down so that then they hang like clip-ons. I did that to a couple of bikes.
That's awesome.
And
it's the most affordable way to do it.
Yeah, you take the bars you've got, flip them. So we would do that sort of stuff. And so the Cafe Racer thing was more the inspiration than the custom scene. It was about making your bike cool and old school. And people started customizing. The CB750s were a big one, and obviously BMW Airheads, the R80s, the R100s. And I think one of the big influences actually came out of Japan. So there was Brat Style. So Go Takamine, who's now lives here, he had his shop Brat Style in Yokohama, I think it is. I hope I didn't get that wrong. I haven't been to Japan yet. But Brat Style, what they were doing was he was customizing things like the Yamaha SRs and affordable bikes, and in the way where for kids who couldn't afford the big expensive Harley Davidsons, with those kind of seats that looked like the pan was made out of a skateboard deck, the flat seat, the kind of maybe motocross bars, lowered. It was almost kind of, Brat Style describes it quite well. They were the little brats of the custom scene done on the cheap. And leaving the patina on the fuel tank, these kind of
and not only that, but accessible too, because getting a Harley back in the days was almost, even for Americans, it was difficult. Buying a bike.
Yeah, it was expensive, and
it was expensive, but it was limited. If you went in and said, "I want a red one," they'd be like, "Well, we got a black one coming in 3 weeks. Take it or leave it."
Oh, right. No.
So that was it.
I think for me, it was that what inspired me from it was taking motorcycles that look like motorcycles, where you've got a fuel tank, and underneath the fuel tank is an engine, and I can see it, and it's made of metal, and it hasn't got plastic crap all over it. And then you sit behind the fuel tank, and you hang on in a kind of a racing a position that means business, not laid back with your arms up and your feet forward, but you're either kind of motocross style or Cafe Racer style, and you want to throw that bike around, be loud, make noise, look cool, a little bit Mad Max, a little bit maybe punk rock. And that was the scene. Yeah. The scene was a little bit Mad Max, a little bit punk rock. Take something old, take an old motorcycle and put Brembos and upside down Öhlins forks on it, try and make it go faster, put flat side race carbs on it, make it cool, delete the airbox, which ruins the fueling, and then you have to fix that. But it was a whole aesthetic around that as well. People were doing stuff. So it was a little bit of a blend of Brat Style meets a little bit of the Street Fighter scene, and not really that related to the custom scene. And that was what people were excited about. And it was visually beautiful. It looked good. Those motorcycles just looked great. And the people are still building them like that now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so then you do your second event. This is the crowd you're bringing in. And what happens after this?
Well, after the second event, and while we were planning the third event, we had loads of people come to this show and say, well, what is this? And people were kind of saying, this is awesome, because it's like a kind of a club. It's like a hospitality event with sofas and cocktails and good coffee and nice food, as well as all the motorcycles. And because we styled it as a kind of a pop-up club, people were like, well, should this exist every weekend? And that was a bit of a question. Should this be every weekend? And obviously, ideally, we'd all love to do that. And a couple of our visitors sought us out and sought out me and Vicky and said, well, whose show is this? What is this? And one of them was a guy called Nicholas Cowell, who's Simon Cowell's brother. Nicholas Cowell is a huge motorcycle rider. He's his own. He runs his own business. He's a real estate and lives in the UK. Loves motorcycles, and he's good friends with Charlie Borman. And they were planning to open a pub for motorcycle riders and have it as a members club. And he kind of said, I want to talk to you about this idea I've got. And there was another guy called Frederick Lukoff, who's actually a Dutch guy. He was living in the UK, and he was the president and CEO of Stella McCartney. Huge bike rider, owns about 25 motorcycles, owns everything, all his holidays involved 2 wheels and disappearing for 2-3 weeks and riding with his buddies.
Beautiful. What a lifestyle.
Fantastic guy, as well as being incredibly sort of intelligent and a great mentor for me in business. And between Nicholas and Frederick, we introduced them to each other, and they said, we've got to do this. And we looked at Nicholas and Charlie's idea for a club, and I was like, well, this is really cool, but this is a bit too exclusive. This is for your buddies, and they're only going to come in the summer, and it'll be tumbleweed in the winter time, and this needs to open up to everybody else. And it needs to be more like our event. And Nicholas agreed. He said, well, you've done it. It's this event every day. So they sort of helped us with seed funding. We also had started earning money from our show. So our third show at Tobacco Dock actually made money, like some proper money in the bank. And we were like, oh, right, well, we can invest. They can invest.
Yeah.
We had a whole bunch of seed money into this kind of idea. So we put a business plan together. Shockingly, the business plan made sense. And initially, Vicky and I had thought we would hire people to run it. And we still had all the people who had volunteered in those early shows, all of those original Bike Shed guys who had been part of our scene. They'd volunteered in those first 2 shows, and they were volunteering that third show. So we created a company. We gifted them shares. We had the seed funding. We put the business plan together, and we started looking for a venue. So at the same time as we did our third show, we found a venue, and we started working on it. And we found these railway arches in Shoreditch that were, a few hundred yards up the road from our original show venues, just as we'd moved off to Tobacco Dock. And we started the build-out. And then after that seed money to get the building and put together the business plan and work out how the hell we were going to do it, Vicky and I quit our jobs, which was maybe not the smartest thing to do, and became full-time Bike Shed people. We hired a couple of our volunteers. Gareth, who works who runs he's now our global brand director. He was like actually second employee, because Ross was also one of the volunteers. He works for us, but he's now retired to Cornwall to live a simple life, and we miss him greatly. But Gareth and Ross were volunteers, and they became part of the company. Gareth's still a huge part of that business.
No, the loyalty of them sticking around, and the loyalty you guys have created for your members and for the people that come to your shows, stunning. It's amazing. On your success of, let's not talk about success yet, but so far, when you got to that point, how much would you say is skill or luck or timing or all of the above? Like how much, I don't
know. It's a funny question, because a lot of people say to me, oh, you were so lucky. You were in just the right place at the right time. And I've spent the whole of my life thinking I was particularly unlucky. Housing market, job market, coming into TV as a creative director in broadcasting at the death of television, at the death of advertising revenues. Joining MTV just as it began to fragment and fall apart. All these companies I worked for. Joining publishing just as publishing was dying on its ass. Working for big companies, for Time Warner, and News Corp, and and all those kind of big companies. And I don't think the thing is, the harder you work, the luckier you are. I mean, we saw an opportunity. I could see a phenomenon happening, but I was determined to drive it, not ride it. I mean, we wanted to influence and sustain the business. And I remember having a conversation with somebody who I won't name, actually, because it's a bit unfair, but somebody really big on the scene at that time, whose name everyone knows, said, how long do you think this bubble's going to last? And I said, it's going to last as long as we want it to. If we drive it and make it interesting, it won't be a bubble. It's not going to burst. Because this is cool. But motorcycling's been cool since, the 30s, 40s, 50s. Yeah. If we're still looking at Keira Knightley selling perfume on a Ducati SS750 in TV ads. Yeah. Biking's cool. Chris Pratt is still being chased by dinosaurs on a motorcycle. I'm just
going to add to that, but I was dealing with a company that rents out motorcycles, and I was there when they had a group of Germans that started off in Chicago and did Route 66 and got to the LA facility. And the stories that you hear them say, these big German men crying and breaking down, saying, this is a dream come true, because I used to have the Elvis Presley poster of Elvis on his motorcycle, and I got to do this, Yeah. It's very cool.
And that's the thing. So for me, biking was always a thing. And I said it's up to us to sustain it, because the industry's forgotten. the industry has turned into the transport industry. And if you think about motorcycling as a business, if you build motorcycles, especially 10 years ago, those were engineers working in the transport industry. And their relationship is not with consumers, it's with dealers. So they're successful if they sell their bikes to a dealership, and their look and their badging, and to turn a dealer into a soulless dealer, a single brand dealer, and to buy their big logos, and to buy their shiny floors, and to buy their lighting and all of their point of sale merch, furniture.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, but that's the thing is those brands didn't have a relationship with the customers at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, the dealers were just people who loved biking and wanted it to be a job, and they weren't necessarily amazing marketeers or business people. They just loved bikes. So there was a disconnect between us and the manufacturers, because to me, motorcycling is a lifestyle choice, and it's about passion and freedom. It's not transport.
Yeah.
It's about adventure and camaraderie and the thrill of speed, or, experience. It's experiential. So nobody was doing that, and we saw that as an opportunity, and we saw the chance to be the voice of the riders to the industry. And so we were kind of lucky, so the timing was luck, but I think we identified a genuine opportunity to build something amazing, because you look on at other people building amazing things, like whoever founded MTV, and Sumner Redstone and all those guys that created that, and the early people who put all of that business together. You go, wow, you created an iconic brand. Or the Ace Cafe, or to found a company like Triumph. And I thought, well, here's a chance to found something iconic that might be around in 20 years. And I didn't want to miss that chance. I'd worked for other people as a creative director or in other senior roles making their brands great. And I thought, well, why shouldn't we do that for what we love and for our community? So there was luck in that things were happening, but I think we made our own luck. And obviously, having worked for big, complicated businesses, Vicky and I knew how to run business and manage people. And we knew how to build teams. And really, it's about people. It's all about human capital. It's about your team, your staff, your crew. And we got that right. And that made us very lucky.
One of my favorite definitions of luck is when opportunity meets preparation. Mm-hmm. That's what luck is. You know? So it's not like it just fell on your lap and stuff. It certainly didn't fall on our laps. I mean, we had to make it. And I think we wanted to play our part in amplifying something that was happening, not on our own. I wouldn't say we're not changing the world, but we were part of a family of businesses, of cultures and companies, for shows like the One Show and the Hand Built Show, and for Bike Exif, and for the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, and for some of these, really amazing bike builders that are doing really cool things. And I don't want to start naming them because I'll forget really important builders, but also including companies like Deus and the companies that are built around, and I'm sort of resisting the temptation to kind of list off loads and loads of companies. But between us, we're a family of brands, and we've told the manufacturers what to do. And the manufacturers have changed what they build and what their bikes look like. I mean, in 2014, we were invited by a manufacturer to go and look at the prototypes of the bikes they were building under NDA and say, what do you think? And when I saw so huge.
When I saw their lookbook, it was full of the bike builders on our collective blogs, what we were writing about and sharing. It was what they were doing to motorcycles. They were going to do to their next generation. And that happened with a Japanese manufacturer as well. A few people came to us and said, what do you think of this? Look at this. So we ended up confirming what they were seeing and saying, yes, this is what people want. They want smaller turn signals and smaller fenders, and they want more attractive, license plate holders, and they want tidier, tighter switch gear, and they want a retro look and feel. They want a motorcycle where you can see the engine, and the fuel tank sits on top and the seat is behind, and they created the modern classic range, and they were all doing it. Triumph and Moto Guzzi and Ducati with the Scrambler. Suddenly all these brands were going, we need to build bikes that look like the bikes our customers are building out of our own old models that we don't make anymore. And then the Japanese got on board. So I think collectively we all played a big role in putting the soul back into motorcycles. And so I think collectively we made our own luck.
Yeah, no, absolutely sounds like that. Would you say riding motorcycles was was kind of like a luxury.
I think it is a luxury.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what we deal with...
And continue that thought, but what I'm also asking is, you know, I've traveled to many countries, and, you know, motorcycles is a common transportation.
Yeah.
It's a luxury. It's, you know, in America, it's considered luxury, but because there's so many financing options, which before there was no financing options, you know, so like...
I think it depends on your definition of the term luxury. To me, the word luxury is a thing you don't have to do.
Right.
I mean, you don't have to eat out. Eating out is a luxury. You can go to the store and cook at home. So every time you eat out, if you dine at somebody else's premises and they cook for you and they do the washing up, that's a luxury. You don't need that. And you don't, I mean, unless you live in Bangkok and you kind of can't afford a car.
Those are the
that's
extremes.
Transport. But in terms of people who buy a motorcycle for lifestyle, it's a luxury.
100%.
And a lot of things we do are luxuries, and I think we need to recognize that. So for me, that's really what I mean about luxury.
And customizing is a luxury.
Absolutely.
And dressing up and the gear and, you know,
Yeah, so we are kind of in a business of privilege and luxury. The great thing is it's accessible and anyone can afford it, which is fantastic. It's an affordable luxury. But we're definitely in the luxury business.
That's beautiful. When did you guys... So you did your third event. Now you get a spot. You open up your spot. A year later, you have a manufacturer calling you, trying to get your input on the styles of the bikes. When did you guys say, "Fuck, man, we did it"? Like we're a big deal.
I don't know
because the first years are difficult, and there's challenges, and there's money, and maybe you haven't even got to that point now.
No, I'm not even sure we have got to that point. I mean,
you've been on TV shows, you've been on you guys are world known at this point.
Yeah, but it's weird. We always feel like the underdog. You know, we're always slightly underfunded, slightly fighting against a
COVID.
You know, we just opened a venue in the middle of 2 years of COVID. It closed our UK business. I mean, it could have killed us. We survived through loyalty, the generosity of our friends and our backers. I've never been able to relax. I still earn less than I did before I started doing all of this on an annual basis. I have a huge overdraft. I'm not kicking back. I work 7 days a week, and I just had my first vacation in 5 years. So I don't feel like we've made it. I feel like we're constantly fighting. And, you know, things have been amazing. I mean, I'm very, very happy. I love what I do. And, you know, and happipiness isn't always driven by wealth and success. It's driven by a sense of achievement. And I know we've achieved amazing things. But the thing, I think we'll feel like we've really got it when we can sit back and watch other people run with it. Because this isn't about me and Vicky or our core team. You know, we have a real core group of people, and Stuart, who's now an integral part of the business. Yeah, but you guys
created a value that people are following. That's why I have such an interest to talk to both of you. And I want to know, you know, like, what were you guys doing before? Like, you guys, I know what you're saying. It almost, you guys want to be a part of it, but at the same time,
it's about legacy.
It's so big now.
Yeah, I mean, I know, you know, I mean,
roots count so much.
Yeah, they do. When Dan came to our business, Camera Dan, he said to me, "Dutch, you and Vicky have to be on camera." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's not about us." And he was going, "Yeah, but it's always about people, and people are interested in you."
It's the stories.
It is the stories, but we really want it to be about everybody, because my greatest joy is, and this happened yesterday, was when other people are giving a tour of this venue, our customers, showing people around.
Yeah.
They're showing people around like they own it. That, to me, is success. When people feel like this is their place. I worked for the Extreme Sports Channel for a long time, and my stated goal as the creative director is for the athletes to feel like they own the brand, not us. You know, it's their brand. It's what they do. We don't do it. I can't do a backflip.
No, you guys definitely created that. No,
so,
but you guys definitely have created that.
So for me, I'm happy to represent and tell the story. But I'm not the most amazing motorcyclist or motorcycle rider or business entrepreneur or incredible person. I'm grumpy and moody and lazy like everybody else, you know. And for me, it's about the whole community. And you know what I really love about bike culture is all the stuff we don't talk about, or we talk about in a subtle way. It's actually the fact that it's great common ground. It unites people, even though they might disagree about, you know, vaccinations or mask wearing or abortion rights or whatever. They can disagree about all sorts of things, but we should be reminded about the things we agree on. Like, you know, basic freedom and democracy and being a good human being. Those things are powerful. And so whether it's sports or or other things that you love, the passions we have. Motorcycling is a great metaphor for that. And really what I want to do is I want to build culture around common ground. And motorcycling is great common ground. It unites people. And I want the legacy of what we do to be around uniting people around something people are passionate about. And biking is an amazing thing to be passionate about. It's exciting, it's cool, it creates friendships. It
changes your mood.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ultimate expression of mindfulness. If you want to look up what that's all about, riding a motorcycle is literally being mindful. You know, I think it's so good for the soul, and I think it's kind of good for humanity in a kind of a secret kind of way. And our goal is to create the home for that. And then for people to do their own thing. It's not for us to organize everybody and tell everybody what to do or tell people what's cool or what's not cool. That's not our job. Yeah. Our job is to get everybody in a room and get them to have a proper conversation and do cool shit.
That's amazing. You guys are killing it. Congratulations on that. Tell me about when you opened up the LA. You opened up during COVID. It's recently 3 months. Was it to duplicate what you currently had, or did you want to switch it up?
It was definitely a chance to switch it up. I mean, we built London on a budget. I mean, this is built on a budget too, but you know, we did the best we could with the money and the time and the resources we had. And when we built that venue, we learned a lot of things. I mean, it's very difficult to take your passion and make money out of it. And hospitality is a terrible way to make money. Cooking people food and feeding them and making that affordable and good is not what a lot of people do.
Really fucking hard.
Yeah, and a lot of other restaurants, they really commoditize that experience to try and make it financially viable. They want you out in 90 minutes, and they want it all scheduled in advance and pre-booked, and they don't want walk-in trade, and they don't want you to stick around too long, and they want an average spend per head at a certain level, and it's a terrible way to make money. I don't really want to make money out of hospitality. Retail's tough too. You know, you've got to get people to come to your place. We find it hard to get people to buy our stuff online, because they want the experience of coming here, so they wait. And I'm like, no, buy our stuff online. It's a great business model. But they're like, no, I'm going to come to your store and try something on. All the things we do, and the event business is great, but it's really, really expensive and high risk and a very hard work, and it nearly kills us every time we do a show. So, but we did realize in our London venue how to make a business out of it and separating out the events and the event space, and also having a members bar for the members, because when we started our London business, we didn't have a club, but we called it Bike Shed Motorcycle Club before we became Bike Shed Moto Co. And that was to make it a bit more friendly, because people kept thinking you had to join to come, and we wanted to make it clear you didn't. But when we opened it,
get jumped in or something.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but when we opened in London, everybody said, "Oh, well, how do I join your club?" And we were like, "Well, okay." And we created this club, but we had no space. So one of the switch-ups was to have a private members bar, so that the club members could come to a place that was their own, and also having the event space much more usable by us and by other people. So the event space was a big breakout, but we needed to grow it. We realized that actually we had a business that attracted way more non-riders than we expected. You know, I thought we'd have maybe 20-30% non-riders coming to our London club, but it's more like 50-60%.
That's so cool.
And actually, I think that's really cool, because one of the limitations of going to motorcycle destinations is it's full of dudes on bikes.
Yeah.
And maybe a few women. I mean, one in 5 women ride in the US, and probably it's more like 1 in 4 in California, perhaps around here. But, you know, I don't want to go to places full of dudes kicking tires on bikes. Right. You know, I want to go to places full of humans that represent the whole population. I want to see kids and dogs and families, and you know, and I want everyone to feel comfortable. And I want it to be.
That's awesome. You guys do treats for dogs that come in.
Yeah,
it's amazing. I just saw that. I just witnessed that.
Yeah, and you want half the people in here to be female, because that's half the population, right? So it should be representative. So one of the things we didn't expect in London was to be a really popular food and drink destination, a hospitality destination for non-riders who were enjoying bike culture in the way that, I guess, if you can go to the Hard Rock Cafe and not play the guitar, right, or the drums, you don't need to be a rock star. Right. So you can come to Bike Shed if you don't ride a motorcycle. And actually, it also, the other side effect was it united the biking tribes, because whether you come on a Harley or a sports bike or an adventure bike or some uber cool cafe racer that you built yourself from the ground up, if half of the customers in the building don't ride, you guys are all pushed together as the real deal. And now you're the community. It glues those people together, because they're the authentic heart. So what it did was it untribalized. So, and if you go to the Ace Cafe or to Rikers or any of the great destinations in the UK, and I'm sure, you know, some of the places here, whether it's Rock Store or Neptune's Net or Old Place or Newcomb's when that was open, people are in their tribes. And I think it's kind of nice to be kind of in one tribe instead of all these micro tribes and going, well, I remember I used to ride Super Duke, and I had the Super Duke R, and so I was a moderator on the Super Duke R forum, on the Super Duke forum, and I used to arrange meets and rides, and I was an authority on airboxes and velocity stacks and gearing and throttle cams and all the bullshit that you get into if you're on a forum. And all of us would meet, and we all had the same bike. We weren't even on one brand. We were all on Super Dukes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of stupid, really, when you think
it's
about
ridiculous.
it.
I know.
And now I love seeing. You didn't see bikers riding together on different types of motorcycles.
No, now
before.
you see it.
And also, before you could tell what people rode in on by what they were wearing, and now you can't.
No, I'm laughing because I have 3 different bikes that are 3 different categories, and it's like if I ride my Harley, I got to wear the Harley gear. If I ride the BMW, it's got to be the BMW thing. If I ride the EV, it's the EV thing, and it's so fucking different, and it's confusing, and it's annoying, and it's inconvenient, and I've been riding 20-something years, and I really haven't seen anything like this where it's like everybody's coming together.
Yeah, it's one tribe, and
It's
it's one
one
tribe
tribe.
under the gaze of the non-riders. And I don't just mean the customers, the community, the city, our
Right.
neighbors.
Right.
I mean, that's why we
The
make
neighbors, the kids, the dogs, everything. It doesn't even matter, You ride, cool. You don't ride, cool.
Yeah.
Like you want to get into riding, cool. You'll never ride, cool. Fuck
Yeah.
it. Did you try the burgers? Fucking cool.
Exactly. So we really needed to expand on that opportunity.
Yeah.
To really amplify this space for LA and for the locals in the Arts District. It's a really cool place. In London, we're in the top 3% of all restaurants on TripAdvisor out of 28,000 restaurants.
Beautiful. I believe it.
And it's the service, by the way. It's the people.
Yeah.
The food's good. It's not great. It's good. But it's the staff. It's the
In
team.
LA, the food's great.
Yeah, and I have to say in LA, I hate to say it, but I think that the food is elevated even more because we have a much bigger, better kitchen. Our chef in London's awesome. And we have an amazing chef here, Enrico, who rides, obviously. He's got 3 bikes, and his son, they share bikes. Fantastic guys. And but they have a really big kitchen, which we built. So we made a much bigger kitchen, a much easier kitchen to cook out of. We can do more. We can cook to a higher standard. We've got way more. We've got 325 seats in the restaurant. And you can just come for coffee, or you can come for you can have for a romantic date.
Which you're saying it very casual, but you guys have a full coffee bar that you guys make all the fancy drinks, and you guys get quality coffee.
Yeah, coffee's important, especially to bike riders.
Oh, so important. Yeah, especially. Yeah, you can't have bullshit coffee.
And proper
be like,
cocktails if you come in the evening that are
Proper
mixed in front of
cocktails.
you. We're not pouring out of a pre-mixed bottle,
Does the UK location and the LA location, do they share similar items, or Yeah.
Yeah, we have a similar menu, slightly smaller in the UK.
You guys eat burgers over there?
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
it's true.
That was an American thing.
Although we don't say chicken sandwich, that's a chicken burger. I don't know why you guys, it suddenly becomes a sandwich when you do the same thing.
That's
but you
just
put some
lazy.
chicken
That's just
in there.
American laziness.
Yeah, that confuses us.
Yeah, bread, chicken sandwich.
Yeah. It's really simple. We actually have the UK coffee here. So the coffee that we serve here, you get the UK blend, or the London blend, or the LA. Well, it's not a blend actually; it's a single origin Brazilian. But the London coffee or the LA coffee.
That's awesome.
So the London coffee is actually the London coffee is more like an Arts District coffee. It's more like a blue bottle coffee.
Yeah.
Whereas what we call the LA blend is a little bit more like the softer, coffee, tea leaf, whatever that place is.
Yeah,
It's this kind of softer, more of a Starbucks coffee.
General coffee.
Generic coffee. So we try, and so it's got the same as the London stuff, and also we have full English breakfast here. We're going to start to do the Sunday roast, but also in the UK we have huevos rancheros, which is my favourite breakfast.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of crossovers going the other way as well. We always had that. We always had a little bit of a California style.
That's another thing. As I started traveling, there was a point like I'd be in Dubai or Qatar or somewhere like that, and they wouldn't have tequilas. And now tequila is...
Yeah, it's everywhere,
Yeah, UK, big on tequilas. Well, I guess if they had
I think the whole
rancheros.
world, big on tequilos, big on...
Rum's always been around, right?
Avocado toast has taken over the world.
Avocado toast.
There's a Californian export. I think the whole world's becoming more globalized anyway. And I think if you live in a big city, whether you live in Austin or London or New York or Los Angeles or maybe Dubai or Tokyo, we're probably all have got the same flavor profiles for coffee and the food that we like and the drinks that we like. We're all being marketed in the same way.
Yeah.
And we want to be an international brand, so we want to have an international... well, I call it, sometimes I unfairly describe it as kind of like being in a really nice hotel.
Right.
Like, you know, you expect Eggs Benedict and you expect avocado toast and you expect a really good steak or maybe a risotto. You expect those things to be on a menu and you want to know what they look like before they turn up on the plate. You don't want a surprise.
Right.
I don't need my Eggs Benedict deconstructed with wasabi on the side. I want Eggs Benedict. And so really what we're trying to do is offer that consistency. So hopefully people, as we open more bike sheds in the future, it doesn't matter where you go, you'll get a similar experience.
Which that's already being on the works, right?
It's on the works in our minds. We're certainly planning expansion. I mean, the idea of opening Los Angeles was a kind of a proof of concept, proof of scalability. I know this community exists all over the world. In London, it's a niche within a niche. It's small. It's a difficult city to own and ride a motorcycle in. It's expensive. LA has got maybe 25 times as many people in it that do what we do in a similar catchment area. But we know that there are cities all over the US straight away without going back into Europe. I mean, we can do this in Atlanta, we can do this in Austin, we can do this in Dallas, Houston, Denver, we can do it in Miami. I mean, there are so many places we could do this. And a lot of people want us to do this in those cities.
What's the requirement? What are you trying to look for? Are you trying to look for like, for example, in California, you could only ride 12 months out of the year because of the weather.
Yeah, I think...
are you looking for motorcycle-friendly spots?
Yeah, we need to be motorcycle-friendly. Weather's not always a thing because in London, you can only ride 9 months of the year comfortably, and then it becomes all about what gear you're going to wear. But it never gets super cold either. There are plenty of places where you can only ride a few months of the year. And I think what we did in London was we created a destination where you could come even when it wasn't biking weather and you didn't have to bring your motorcycle. You can still be a rider, come to the bike shed and come in a cab and drink more beer. And in fact, Q4, when it's winter in the UK, is our biggest trading period. So we know that works. So I'm not afraid of a New York. When it comes to places like New York and San Francisco, I'm more afraid of labor laws and city bureaucracy than I am of the weather. That makes me nervous. Having dealt with California bureaucracy, that sucks. So we'll probably go to places, maybe Texas should be next and Georgia because they're really business friendly and they want to help us. We've met with senior representatives of the state of Georgia and Texas who are like, we want your company here. So being wanted is important. We need to know our crowd is there. We need to know the riders are there, people like us. But in the digital age, that's easy. We know where our followers are and we know who engages with us. We need to find a venue where, on the one hand, it's crowded enough to attract casual visitors, but where by having motorcycles, we won't piss off our neighbors, which is why we're really strict about people being arseholes around our venue on their motorcycles, because we're part of a community as well, and we don't want to be, we don't want to alienate.
We have neighbors. We all have neighbors.
It's a great way to get shut down. I know there's some rides around a couple of shops in Hollywood that got shut down because people that went to those rides behaved badly. So we don't want to get caught up in that. So we have to be very open. A lot of people come to us saying, I've got a building, I've got a venue, I've got a place, you need to come, I'm building this big development, you guys would fit right in. And I say, well, we need motorcycle parking on site for 100 motorcycles. And if some of them are a little bit noisy, we need to not be hated by our neighbors. That's almost like step one. And also we want character and soul. And we need finance, we need money. We built this business off investment funding. We've got 89 backers. And they're riders. They're just riders who've done a little bit better financially than some of the rest of us.
On a business point of view, how do you go about your funding? Do you do it privately? Do you guys reach out? Do you guys make it public?
It's been private, which is difficult.
It's limited that way, right?
Yeah, it's very limited. What I never wanted to do was go out there and, people always come to us with crowdfunding things and saying, you are perfect for crowdfunding. And maybe we are. Maybe we are perfect for crowdfunding and we should have done it and we missed a good opportunity. But we've done kind of what I call curated crowdfunding. Through our original two backers, through Nicholas Cowell and Frederick Lukoff, we then got introduced to other people. And we had people we knew who were, and people who became customers quite early on, who were successful, ex-racers or hedge fund managers or musicians or actors who made money, who loved motorcycle culture, gave us their money. And we ended up with 89 people contributing to the business over 3 years or so. And we haven't finished yet. We're still finalizing the round for the finishing LA. We're still, getting to break even and dealing with all of that side of things. But it's incredibly difficult because it's a private, personal conversation. We want our backers to be people that we could go for a beer with. We don't want the big VC money where they want a 3-year ROI and they're looking for the exit strategy. We want people that, it's a business, it's supposed to make money, it's supposed to be profitable. We expect you to profit from being an investor at some point. But we really want people to be backing our community and our vision. And also, they're our founding members. Almost all of our investors ride. I would say 90% of them ride motorcycles. And those that don't ride drive and love cars and collect cars or motorcycles. And they're our best customers. And you wouldn't know them from our members or our normal customers when they're in here. They're just part of the community. They're the ones who made loads of money at some point. And I can put my energy into this business, and Vicky can put her energy into this business and, give our sort of heart and soul into making this great. And what they're able to do is put their money into the business. So it's been a difficult way of doing things, but it's been rewarding.
Yeah, it's a passion industry.
Yeah.
It's a passion industry. Yeah. It's a passion investment. It's not just numbers. It's passion. And you guys been doing that. And I know you're super busy, and I appreciate all the time you're giving me. How is it working with your wife?
It's
because you guys are life partners, business partners.
It was really hard at the beginning.
Now you're in different countries. You guys have your kid, your family.
Yeah.
How's that?
I mean, it's definitely an art, and it's taken us a few years to get it right. I mean, I think the thing is, me and Vicky are really different. She's like a panic first, check later. Like she'll go, oh my God, I've lost my phone. And then she hasn't. It's just in her back pocket. And whereas I'll go, haven't seen my phone for about 2 hours. Maybe I left it in that cab earlier. And I'll sneak off quietly, find the Uber driver and get him to bring it back to me, and nobody will ever know I lost my phone. So that sums up the two of us.
You don't like the dramatic...
so we're very different. She's very instant. She very quickly gets a handle on people and whether or not they're legit or cool or trustworthy. Very instinctive. And I step back, do the research, bit of diligence, get to know them, decide if I like them in a month's time. But together, between the two of us, we come at the same problems from completely different angles, but we always come to the same conclusion, and we have the same taste. So we're lucky in that way. But
yin-yang.
Yeah, but it's very yin-yang. We are very, very yin-yang. And I think probably as two co-founding business owners, I think it's probably quite hard for our team because, when we don't agree, it's like mum and dad are fighting and they all hide. So it's probably a bit awkward. And we can be grumpy with each other, which isn't always the best look. In terms of leadership, we're probably meanest to each other than we are to anybody else. But it's been a work in progress to be able to go home and then not still be talking about business. And we haven't really succeeded in that, And this vacation we just took was a real step in rediscovering ourselves. And in fact, now we don't work Mondays. I say that, we were already here the last Monday. But we came back from our holiday, our vacation in Bali, and said, right, we don't work Mondays anymore because we can't do 7 days a week for the next 10 years. We've got to have a day off. We want to be here on the weekends when our customers
It's mandatory.
Here. But it was really, really hard. And also, I think we were both very proud and had very strong views. And when we don't agree on a thing, it's... I mean, I use...
just for shits and giggles, like if you want, just for shits and giggles, what would be like something you guys don't agree on?
That's a good question. Sometimes she has very strong views about things which aren't very important. And I can see that changing them is just going to piss a whole bunch of people off. And I'm going, do you know what? It's okay. No one will die. But she's very detail focused, so she won't let it lie. And I'm always kind of looking for the kind of the rational way out and the compromise, and she doesn't do compromise at all. So that's usually where we disagree. It's not that she's wrong. She's right. It's just that I don't think it's important enough to push. And sometimes I've learned from her to be more pushy and to not take no for an answer or to not compromise. I've learned to be less compromising because I have a very clear vision of what I think is right and wrong, but sometimes I think it doesn't matter, whereas she thinks it always matters. But I've also taught her to compromise a little bit. But we would disagree about stupid things like, where a light should be or where a refrigerator should be or if it's in people's way or not. Stupid stuff. Where I'll go, do you know what? It doesn't matter that much. It's not a big deal. Whereas she'll be like really pretty annoyed.
Yeah, she's more passionate about certain things.
And sometimes
where you're just like it's a light bulb.
Yeah, and sometimes who we collaborate with and who we work with, I'll go, I think what they're doing is great, and she'll go, yeah, but that guy's a real dick. And I was going, yeah, he's a bit of a dick, but what he's doing is cool. And she was going, yeah, but I don't want to work with a guy who's a bit of a dick. And I'll go, yeah, but he's just passionate and proud and excited. And, maybe he's not a very good people person, and maybe he's a bit on the spectrum and he doesn't really understand he's being an asshole. But actually what he's doing is really fucking cool. So let's support it. So we'll disagree about soft things like that. I mean, we don't have major business disagreements or anything like that. But I think it's really tough. I wouldn't recommend any couple do it. We found our way, but it was not easy.
Yeah, no, congratulations on that. It's amazing. You guys are doing it very beautifully. Somebody actually just showed me a picture that they took of you and Vicky casually, just in each other's arms, overlooking at the parking lot.
Oh, cool.
And they were like, "How amazing are they? They established this beautiful business, and then their relationship and just everything about them's awesome." And then, actually, one more last thing. Tell me about the decoration and who you guys worked with to execute LA, because LA's beautiful, a beautiful location.
Oh, thank you. I mean,
the artwork, the paintings, the everything.
Well, we're both very aesthetically driven. We're both very creative, and I think, we always like that idea of trying to find a place that anyone would feel comfortable in. You want it to be kind of aspirational and upmarket, but not exclusive. So I want somebody to come here who's a carpenter or a CEO and feel like this is their place. And it shouldn't matter whether they're male or female, younger, older, whatever their orientations are, all that stuff. I want anybody to feel that they can be here. And how do you achieve that? How do you be a little bit aspirational and upmarket, but be accessible? And I think what we tried to do is combine having these buildings with soul, like railway arches in London that were built to support railways, not hold people, with poured concrete floors, red brick walls. And here we've got concrete floors, red brick walls, open ceilings. And we wanted to take that industrial feel that feels timeless and kind of maybe a little bit masculine. And then inside of that, we put, club. So you put Chesterfield sofas. And, we were kind of looking at kind of English gentlemen's clubs rather than the American version of a gentleman's club, English version of that, along with a little bit of mid-century, a little bit of Art Deco. Because
it's very Kingsman.
It is a little. Well, it is in here. This is very Kingsman because we wanted this to be like a British gentleman's club. Because why not? It's fun. Panelled walls and kind of.
I want to buy a sword. I want to have a sword now.
Yeah, you need a sword and an open fire. I mean, none of this needed to be here. This was just fun. But the rest of the space was really
so good taste.
Yeah, we wanted to make it feel really cool and really photographic and really nice. And we took that kind of 20s and 30s LA aesthetic of kind of Art Deco and post-Art Deco and early industrial, and mixed that in with English gentlemen's clubs. And also that kind of garage culture where you might have an old Chesterfield sofa and a mid-century Danish sofa side by side with a G-plan coffee table and a stove. Right. I wanted that eclectic, almost eBay.
Yeah, I like in the other rooms. The blue
and in London, we were literally built on eBay. We bought all of our sofas from different people. We went onto eBay and said, we'll have that sofa and that chair, and then tried to match it with other ones. I mean, here it was a bit different because we needed to open the place quickly. So we ordered 40 sofas from Chesterfield and had them made. But we want them to wear in, and they're not all exactly the same color. And, we wanted to have a little bit of a vibe to it. But really it was about trying to find somewhere that felt cool and aspirational, but not exclusive. So anyone would feel comfortable, and riffing off that industrial with a little bit of kind of, because Art Deco's kind of timeless. But
this is you and Vicky doing this.
Yeah, I mean, we work with an architect, and actually he's a really talented architect and a good company called Spacecraft, and they specialize in restaurants. But actually, we knew exactly what we wanted. He helped us with space planning and construction. But we literally, down to...
This is not wallpaper, this is...
It's called anaglypta, so it's like 3D wallpaper. But down to the spacing of, how many levels all of the wood paneling would be and whether it's turned or not and all those things.
I love it. Oops, my bad. I love all the little flamingos and the...
Yeah, we went to this huge place called King Richard in Whittier, which is like this giant building full of secondhand stuff. And we bought the dogs, and we bought the flamingos, and we bought the clock, and there's loads of stuff in here from there.
So much stuff.
Yeah, we just kind of went out and wanted to look collected over time. And
I know I don't want to compare it to this, but it reminds me of like a casino in Vegas, where it's like any corner you look at and take a picture, it's beautiful. It's decor. Like the Wynn or the Encore. Like every corner is so well thought of.
I mean, that's certainly nice to hear. I mean, we aspire to that. We were limited by time and money and our vision versus what we could do. But, you know, it was certainly, you know, how good can we make it? And we put a lot more effort in than we could or should have maybe. We built something that we want to be here in, you know, a lot of stuff in LA especially, you buy the land, you build something new, you expect it to last 5 years, you knock it down and build another one.
Yeah.
And we wanted to build something a bit more permanent and a bit more
that
timeless.
lasts. Well, you guys did it.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
So, you know, hopefully this building will stand the test of time. I mean, the building itself was built in 1945.
The guts of it.
The shell and the
shell.
So, you know, we definitely want to build something, and this is our bars are huge and big and solid and made of stone.
I love this bar too.
Yeah, so all of that stuff, you know, we wanted that to be around for a long time, and tough furniture.
Yeah.
And sort of properly built things.
I have a saying I've been saying a lot lately, and it's just, I can't afford cheap shit.
Yeah.
You know, because it just costs you so much money. We all know the story. You know, you buy something cheap, it breaks, you do it again, and you spend 3-4 times when you could just buy it one time.
Especially a motorcycle. You know, people always say to me, "Oh, I've got this much money to spend on this bike," and
don't do it.
Or the donor, and I'd buy spend as much money on the donor as you can, because what you really want is you want a donor motorcycle that doesn't need repairing before you start customizing it. Buy a donor that's perfect, and then customize that. Otherwise, you're going to spend all your money, you know, balancing the carbs and you know, changing the pistons and making the motorcycle work in the first place.
Yeah, the other thing that people do when they buy a motorcycle is they spend all their money on their bike and they don't have money for safety gear.
Also true.
And it's like, guys, come on! If you're gonna buy a motorcycle, you need $2,000-$3,000 for safety gear. Dutch, I hope to have you on the podcast again. I hope to speak to Vicky next time, and then any events, anything that's going on, please let us know or let me know. And I want to push you guys and promote you guys as much as possible. I love what you did here. Like I said, I've been riding almost 20-something years, and I've been looking for this my whole life. So thank you for bringing it home.
Absolute pleasure. I mean, the great thing is thousands of people feel the same way.
We're
the same.
I agree.
You know? So we just found different ways to express it. But thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, sir. Thank you, Dutch.